Transportation Authority, Calhoun County, regular board meeting, February 11th, 2026. And we're at the Wright Calhoun Administrative Office at 49 South Cass Street in Battle Creek. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do roll call.
Yes. February 11th, Eric Stewart, Tom Tarkowitz.
Here.
Vivian Davis here, Maya Williams here, Amy Evans here, Janesha Morris, Dr. Paul Watson
here remotely.
Yes. So we have a quorum. Yes.
We have a quorum. Next on our agenda is something I always enjoyed as being former city manager and marshal, is really showing our thank you to employees. And but I'm going to turn it over to Mallory first, and then I will take it from there.
Of course. So
You weren't ready, were you?
I was not. That's okay. I have some prepared words that I am gonna try to get through without crying. Okay. So, first of all, I'd like to thank the families of Rich Warner and Merritt Wilson for joining us today. Today we're gathering not just to name a room, but to honor two men who helped lay the groundwork for where we are today. It's Richard Warner and Merritt Wilson. Although I didn't have the privilege of working day to day with Rich, I knew of him well from my time at the state. In our industry, reputation matters. And Rich's reputation was one of dedication, steadiness, history, and a deep commitment to the community he served. Rich led during a time when resources were tight and expectations were high. He moved this department forward both through opportunity and through constraints, and he did it with passion. The systems, the relationships, and the framework he established made it possible for me to step into this role and to continue to build on the foundation he laid. I did have the opportunity to work with Merritt for many years. When I first stepped into this role, I wasn't entirely sure that he believed in me or that he trusted me, and that was okay. In all fairness, trust has to be earned. I did learn quickly that Merritt cared deeply about the fleet, the shop, and about the people who worked alongside of him. Within the team, Merritt was respected for being fair, helpful, and dependable. If someone called, Merritt answered. If there was a problem, he fixed it. If I said impossible, he said, "Want to bet?" I'm sad that neither of these men got to see us fully realize the creation of this authority. But they are both part of it. And this organization carries the legacy of both Rich and Merritt. Public transit is built by the mechanics in the shop at 4 a.m., by the managers balancing budgets, and by the people who show up day in and day out to keep things moving. May this space remind us that leadership matters, integrity matters, and that when we bring passion to our work, we don't just maintain a system, but we shape a future that others, like myself, will inherit. To the families of Rich and Merritt, thank you for sharing them with us for all of those years. And I hope you know the impact that they had on the system, our people, and now this room. Thank you, guys. Tom will read your proclamation.
If I could have the families that are here, just come on up. think we're gonna. After I read this, we're gonna get a photo here.
Yeah.
That's your job, so, don't be shy. You're only on TV, so. TV, on YouTube, right? So.
Yeah.
We'll explain a little bit more about the plaque and information, so. So let me read this, to the families of Richard Warner and Merritt Wilson, the transportation of Calhoun County extends our deepest sympathy and sincere gratitude for the years of service, leadership, and commitment these men gave to the organization and the community we serve. Whereas Richard Warner devoted more than 2 decades from 1996 to 2019 to public transportation, serving as transit manager with vision, steadiness, and an unwavering belief in the impact of public transit on his community. And whereas through his leadership, countless riders experience safe, reliable services, and his colleagues benefit from his mentorship, guidance, and dedication to the mission of public service. And whereas Merritt Wilson dedicated more than a decade of service to ensuring that public transportation remains safe, operational, and ready to serve the public each day. And whereas through his hands-on work, technical skill, and commitment to keeping the fleet moving, Merritt played an essential role in supporting the daily operations that riders and staff alike depend on. And whereas public transportation is built not only on policy and planning, but on the daily efforts of those who lead, repair, maintain, and serve, often behind the scenes. And both Richard Warner and Merritt Wilson contributed in their own distinct and meaningful ways to that shared mission. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Transportation of Calhoun County hereby names in honor the Warner Wilson Boardroom at Wright Calhoun Administrative Offices, 49 South Cass Street, Battle Creek, Michigan, and memory of Richard Warner and Merritt Wilson, and be it further resolved that this space shall stand as a tribute to leadership and service, a reminder of the critical work performed both in the office and on the front line, and a lasting acknowledgement that the strength of this organization rests on the dedications of those who commit their careers to public transportation. May all of us who gather in this room be reminded of the responsibility we carry forward and of the foundations laid by those who came before us. And witness whereof is undersigned by virtue of the authority vested in them have here to set their hands this 11th day of February 2026. So congratulations, family. Want to explain what's going to happen with the plaques, and we're giving the family a proclamation that I signed earlier today.
Yes, thank you for signing a proclamation. That is for you guys. We've had these plaques made to memorialize the space, and we're gonna hang them in this boardroom right over there on that wall. And if and when we get a new facility, which we've been trying for years, those will come with us and we'll rededicate the space.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all for coming out tonight. Next, we have our public comments on agenda items. We will be holding a special public hearing to hear any comments on fares. So we're going to just talk about the fares, hold those comments until we get to the public hearing. But if there's any other comments that you'd like to share with us on the agenda items. Oh. Okay, they're going to burn me now. Okay, all right. Let's go back and can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Support.
All in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So we're gonna go back now, and if there's any public comments on agenda items other than the public hearing regarding the fair. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. There's 3 items on there. It's the January 14th, 2026 meeting minutes, the finance and budget report, the AP approval from February 6th, 2026. Before I get a motion, there's one minor change on the AP billing on the city of Marshall. Instead of bill number 4161, it should be 4180. The amount has not changed. So it's just the invoice from the city of Marshall. And with that, is can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Support.
Any discussion? With that, I'll probably we should do Valerie, do you want a roll call since we're approving the bills, or can we just do both?
We can just do a vote.
Okay, all in favor of approval of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We approve the consent agenda. We are going to move now into the public hearing regarding the proposed fare structure. But we're going to start with a presentation by Mallory on the fare structure. And then after that, I'll open the public hearing for comments you may have. So Mallory.
Thank you very much. So we are, as you know, we've been discussing for a couple of months now, unifying the fare structure. And essentially, we have to take fares that existed under previous services, such as Marshall Dial-A-Ride and Battle Creek Transit, and merge them into one. And I will show you here in a second that unfortunately there is not a midline fare or any sort of similarities between the fares. And so we are looking to establish one singular unified fare structure that would represent the entire Ride Calhoun system, particularly for the on-demand services. So just for clarification, as of October 1st, Ride Calhoun is now the designated provider of transportation in Calhoun County. That replaced what was previously Battle Creek Transit and previously Marshall Dial-A-Ride. And as such, we've maintained during that time the existing fare structures that were established by DART and BCT while we took that time to gather feedback regarding the different proposed fare structures. The current fare structure, for example, for BC Go, is mileage based, ranging from $3 to $15, whereas Marshall Dial-A-Ride was anywhere from $1.50 to $3, or I'm sorry, $4. And then the Albion Marshall connector is $1 or $2. Those 3 systems are obsolete as of October 1st and are now essentially what we call RC Flex. And that RC Flex service is the service that we're looking to adjust or unify the fares of. Fares for RC Max and RC Move are not proposed to change. So for paratransit service and fixed route service, there is no proposed change to these services. It is the RC Flex fare structure that is replacing the Marshall Dial-A-Ride services and BC Go that we're looking to adjust. The fixed route fare structure maintains the $1.75 single ride fare, the 85-cent reduced fare, free transfers, free children, maintains the children 8 and under, maintains the existing pass rates, maintains the existing qualified human service organization fares, and expands the reduced fare eligibility to include veterans. The paratransit fare is maintained at the $3 single ride, the free personal care attendant, and a $3 companion, which is an individual who is not a personal care attendant traveling with an ADA certified individual. The proposal for RC Flex, which is the on-demand or demand responsive service, is based on general fare and reduced fare. The RC Flex service expands reduced fare eligibility to seniors 60 and over, people with disabilities, veterans, and residents of the TACC service area. So residents of Albion, Battle Creek, Marshall, or Springfield, regardless of age, disability, or veteran status, would also be eligible for that reduced fare. That would put fares ranging from $3 to $5 based on zones of travel. So if you are traveling within a zone, a single zone, that would be a $3 trip. If you were traveling just across one zone, that would be a $4 trip. And then if you were traveling through a zone, so for example, from Battle Creek or Springfield into Albion, that would be a $5 fare. For individuals who do not meet that reduced fare eligibility, that would be a $6, $8, or $10 fare respectively. When we compare what that looks like, it has different impacts depending on the community and population specifically. And so comparing the RC Flex proposed structure on this slide to what exists today, you'll see a little bit of a more equitable distribution from what BC Go previously was, which was mileage based, meaning an individual traveling from Albion into Battle Creek would pay a $30 round trip, or even somebody from Marshall going into Battle Creek could pay as much as $20 round trip. So here's some examples of what those trips might look like. So a Springfield senior traveling from their home at the Brookside Apartments to the Walmart in Battle Creek on BC Go, that would have been a $5 fare. That is not a trip Marshall Dial-A-Ride or the Albion Marshall Connector could have completed. And the proposed fare under RC Flex would be $3 of cost savings. A Battle Creek worker traveling from Denso to the Williamsburg Apartments, that on BC Go would have been a $5 fare. Marshall Dial-A-Ride, Albion Marshall Connector wouldn't have been able to complete that trip. And then RC Flex, that would be $3. Marshall senior traveling from their home at the Marshall House to their preferred grocery store, like Family Fare in Marshall. On Marshall Dial-A-Ride right now, that would be $1.50. On BC Go, that would be $3, and the proposed fare on RC Flex is also $3. An Albion student traveling from their home to Kellogg Community College, that is not a trip that Marshall Dial-A-Ride or the Albion Marshall Connector could have completed. On BC Go, that would be a $15 trip, and on RC Flex, that would be a $5 trip. An Albion worker traveling from their home to Oaklawn Hospital in Marshall, that would, on Albion Marshall Connector, that would be a $2 ride. On Dial-A-Ride, that's not a ride they could have completed. BC Go, that would have been a $7 trip. And then the proposed fare structure on RC Flex, that would be a $4 trip. A Marshall worker traveling from their home at the Meadows Apartments to their new work at the Blue Oval Battery Park, that is not a trip the Albion Marshall Connector would have completed. Marshall Dial-A-Ride would have been a $3 trip. BC Go would have been a $3 trip, and RC Flex would be a proposed $3 trip. A Marshall senior traveling from their home at Marshall House to Bronson Outpatient Center in Battle Creek. That's not a connection that previously could have been made. It's not something that Marshall Dial-A-Ride is able to do, or the Albion Marshall Connector. On BC Go, that would have been a $10 trip, and the proposed fare structure for RC Flex, that would be a $4 trip. And then lastly, a Battle Creek student traveling from home to Albion College. That is not a trip that Marshall Dial-A-Ride or AMC would be able to complete. On BC Go, that would be a $15 trip, and on RC Flex, that would be a $5 trip. One thing to consider, although there are some populations, particularly seniors and those who have reduced fare eligibility right now with Marshall Dial-A-Ride, this proposal is a fare increase for them, going from $1.50 to $3. However, it is about more than just the fares. And I want to highlight that it is also increased service hours. So if we look at the current service hours for Marshall Dial-A-Ride and access to service for those same residents in Marshall, this increases availability of service and the times that they can travel. And then keeping in mind that our budget supports continued growth into later night service and weekends, allowing seniors and people with disabilities who currently do not have that option to travel on the weekends as well. It also provides enhanced technology with app-based scheduling, still the ability to call into a call center, but the ability to manage trips on their own, providing a little bit more independence. And then obviously the expanded service area. So increasing access to goods and services for those same populations, particularly in Marshall, who would experience the fare increase, recognizing that they also have the opportunity to travel outside of Marshall, something that they weren't able to do previously. One of the questions we get most often is, why is a fare required? And I want to point out that fares do not pay for the actual cost of the trip. And so fares only represent 6 or 7% of our actual revenues, and that's called our fare box recovery rate. One of the things to make note of that we talked about previously as part of the budget preparation process is that for fiscal year 2026, the state legislature adopted a budget that included language which said it is the intent of the legislature that all transit agencies in this state should strive to achieve a fare box recovery rate of not less than 6%. Unfortunately, under current legislation, millage revenues cannot be counted towards fare box recovery, and therefore fares must be charged at the fare box in order to meet that intent. Now, those fares are the $3, $4, $5, or the $1.75 on the fixed route. Fare box recovery does not include contracted services either. So contracting with another provider, that is not included in fare box recovery. It is fares paid at the fare box. Reduced fares are going to remain available on all of the Ride Calhoun services, with the exception of RC Move, which is the paratransit service. So RC Max and RC Flex both have expanded reduced fare eligibility to include seniors age 60 and over, veterans, and people with disabilities. And then that RC Flex fare structure expands that eligibility to residents of the TACC boundaries. There's also the option to receive an additional discount on trips that you purchase in bulk. So on the fixed route service, you can buy a multi-ride pass that provides a discount, or you can provide on RC Flex, you can buy a mobile trip credit, which, for example, is $50 for $60 in trip credit, or $25 for $30 in trip credit. As I mentioned, the RC Max service extends reduced fares to seniors who are 60 and over, Medicare cardholders, people with disabilities, and veterans. The RC Flex fare proposal extends reduced fares to seniors 60 and over, people with disabilities, veterans, and residents of the TACC service area. This is not happening tomorrow. I know there's been some interaction and comment on social media where people are concerned about maybe the passes or tokens that they currently have for either one of the existing or pre-existing services. And just to make it clear, the board has not voted on a fare structure yet. That is why we're having these public hearings, as an opportunity for feedback from the community on this proposed fare structure. And then the board will make a decision likely in March or April. And then we will communicate an implementation date. So I'm just going to use the example of if the board voted on March 11th, it is not that the fares would change or anything would go into effect on March 12th. We would set an implementation date and ensure that we are able to communicate with the public, including those who currently have passes or tokens that they purchased under one of the previous systems. We are working with our technology provider right now to see what options we may have for exchanging some of those things. So for example, Dial-A-Ride in Marshall used poker chips as a fare media, and there's not really a good way to account for how many might be out in circulation. And so recognizing that organizations and individuals likely purchased these in advance, making sure that we have a policy and procedure in place for continuing to accept those across all modes of service, and then obviously to account for them appropriately. You can pay fares on RC Max and RC Move in cash on board. And so again, RC Max is the fixed route service, RC Move is the paratransit service, and those are exact fare only. The drivers are unable to make change, and there is a fare box on board the machine, or a fare box on board the vehicle. You can also purchase a multi-ride pass from the Ride Calhoun office, which is the 339 West Michigan, Full Blast, or City Hall. Now, those locations will, at this time, continue to sell fare media. Those fixed route passes, for example, would not need to be sold in Marshall or Albion because that service isn't running in Marshall or Albion. For RC Flex, we'll work with Marshall Dial-A-Ride staff on how to transition that poker chip to a new fare media, and then again, how to account for it on board the vehicle. Those trips on RC Flex can be booked over the phone or online, and at that time of booking, you can choose to pay using a credit or debit card, or you can always pay cash on board, exact change. So at this time, I would turn it back over to you for public comment.
First of all, before we open the public hearing, any questions from the board? Okay.
Yeah, I just have one question, regarding new sponsors, so to speak. When will that come into effect? You know, for instance, for the Albion area, there are some people who would like to purchase tokens to give to their clients or patients or.
Right now, our technology for RC Flex doesn't allow kind of bulk purchase like that. We're working through, Christy meets with them bi-weekly. We're working through what that might look like for a concession, a discount code, something like that that organizations or businesses could use to sponsor rides for employees or participants. We've been in contact with a couple in particularly in the Albion area who are interested in doing that.
Interested, right?
Yeah.
I get, but when are you gonna start?
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing at 5:58. If you could come, if you're able, up to the podium, because we only have one microphone there. If you have any comments about the fare structure that Mallory presented, this is your time to speak. Don't be shy. Quiet room. Come on up here. And if you could just give us your name and what jurisdiction you live in, that would be great.
My name is Rick Matthews. I live in Bedford Township.
Okay.
And I would like some information to maybe advocate for people within my township to help them renew the millage to help pay for my account. I am aware that the millage in Bedford Township, Emma Township, is not being renewed and is expiring. And I would like to help you guys take that to them to make them aware that there is a population maybe not as big as, say, the immediate Back Creek Springfield area, but I think that it's still needed over Bedford, whether it's used every hour of every day. That's not gonna happen. But if I'm living in Bedford Township, there must be other people in Bedford that are eligible to use this system. And I think it's irresponsible for Bedford Township to cease millage when there's an obvious need for the services you folks provide.
Okay, thank you. A couple comments. We do intend to talk to the townships now that Wright Calhoun is up and running. There can be ways that they could join. I think, Mallory, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think good to know. He's already connected with Mary, who's our new mobility manager.
Okay.
And obviously, again, our goal with the mobility management program is not just to focus on the 4 cities, but mobility management in the grant we receive is intended to focus on the county and the region and making sure that people have access to the right type of transportation for them. And so Mary can continue to work with him, and if we are not able to be the provider of transportation, helping find a solution for him when BC Go or other options go away.
The other thing is we are going to be looking in the future of having a Friends of Wright Calhoun who will be advocates like you who can go to the townships with board members or staff. So we'll keep you in mind, Mallory will, and the staff.
I'm more than willing to help out where I can.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We really do appreciate that. And thank you for coming.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
I know you have a bus to catch. We make it in
I
time?
think we're gonna be fine.
Okay, all right.
Amanda took care of them.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Eric,
What was all the information you wanted? I forget.
just name and your jurisdiction you live in.
I'm from Berry County.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you,
Eric Scott,
the organization you represent.
there we go. Eric Scott, I'm president of the local here at Battle Creek Transit, Wright Calhoun. Question as far as the fare structure on RC Flex, have we compared that to what we used to have as the city cap company that was in the city of Battle Creek that I believe only serviced Battle Creek?
I am not.
Um,
I will see if I can find any historical
Yeah.
favors.
closed up a few years ago,
Yeah,
and it was due to insurance or something,
Yeah.
lack of funding, stuff like that. And I think RC Flex is a good mode of transportation for a lot of folks that can't afford to get out. It's a nice cab company, basically, but not so much. But, yeah. That's all.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
You bet. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? You can also enter any comments online through the website. Am I correct, Mallory?
Correct.
If you'd like to make any comments, so
Yes.
those are there.
Or email directly at info@ridecalhoun.org.
Yeah, we try to make the fares as affordable as possible. I happen to be talking to a lady whose husband is got to get dialysis in Albion, who is being transferred over to a facility here in Battle Creek. One of the other private providers was going to charge $175. Again, initially the trip would be $15 over and $50 back, but going to $5 and $5, right? In the future with these fares. So we're making it very affordable and, because this person is wheelchair bound and has to get the dialysis in Albion because there's no chairs available in the Bell Creek area. So I mean, we're doing our best. Keep saying that. Is there any other comments that anybody would like to make before I close the public hearing? Okay, close the public hearing at 6:05. And your comments are appreciated. On our agenda, we have no unfinished business. And we're going to do business. And first is an adoption of resolution 04-2026 of the adoption of the grant approval and oversight policy. Thank you for coming. Mallory?
Yes, resolution 04-2026 would adopt the grant, what is it? Grant approval and oversight policy. Essentially, this outlines the internal controls and thresholds that are associated with applying for grants and executing those grants, as well as any reporting that would go to the board as a result of applying for or receiving those grants. You will see that today's application or today's board packet is heavy in grant applications and pass-through funding, and so this resolution is timely.
And just for the public, our agenda is 228 pages long, so
Yes.
after the, okay,
I was just gonna say, I move to approve resolution 04-2026.
Support.
any other discussion? All in favor of adoption of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Moving on to resolution 05-2026 is the adoption of the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan and Targets. Mallory?
Yes, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, or PTASC for short, is a federally required document as part of receiving transit funding. And essentially, the PTASC outlines not only what we're going to do to promote safety culture, but it also establishes a way for employees and frontline workers to be able to report safety risks and hazards. And then we have to have a hazard identification and mitigation plan in effect for that. I will say our team, led by Brendan and our new safety manager, safety security and training manager, Chris, kind of went above and beyond on this and created work groups. And part of this is that it's jointly adopted along with frontline staff. And so we have worked for many years with ATU on this, and we've built an internal process for reviewing accidents and incidents, safety events, not just for fault per se, or preventable or non-preventable, but to truly get to the root cause of what the accident was and or what the safety event was, and how do we prevent that from happening again. So if you read through the PTASC, you'll see the matrix essentially of risk and likelihood of events occurring, as well as those safety targets. And one of the things that I always try to point out to individuals when they're reviewing the PTASC is that it looks like we are setting targets to have safety events. Realistically, we want to have 0 safety events every year, but that's not reality. We drive hundreds of thousands of miles, and the likelihood that we're going to be involved in a safety event is high, whether it's on property or on the road. And so for us, we use the last 5 years of actual data to set our targets for the next year. Once the board adopts these targets and the PTASC itself, we'll transmit those to BCATS, our MPO, and to MDOT as required.
May I have, first of all, any questions for Mallory? May I have a motion, please?
Someone.
Second.
We have a motion and support to adopt resolution 05-2026, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan and Targets. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Next we have resolution 06-2026, which is approval of a Marion Birch Adult Day Center subcontract.
Yes. So we have 3 of these in a row. I will say, our legal counsel has vetted the subcontract. We receive funds from the Michigan Department of Transportation. Those funds are called Specialized Services Funds. And those are intended for coordination and collaboration with other agencies that primarily serve seniors and people with disabilities. So the eligibility to receive these funds is restricted to those agencies or transportation providers that serve primarily, so at least 51% of their service is seniors and people with disabilities. We go through a public application process. We publish a public notice for those interested transportation providers to submit to us the required documentation, information, and first ensure that they are eligible to be a recipient of funding, pass-through funding, and then also ensure that they meet the standards of the Michigan Department of Transportation. That means, our preference is they don't have volunteer drivers, they have paid drivers, they have a preventive maintenance plan for their vehicles, they have adequate insurance, adequate training, and then that they're subject to the 5310 requirements as imposed by FTA. So we act as the primary contractor with the Michigan Department of Transportation and then pass through some of those funds to these other providers. Those providers in this case, for resolution 06-2026, this is Marion Birch Adult Day Center. This is the Calhoun County, is it medical care facility? They provide adult day services and they provide their own transportation for their program participants. And so they are eligible to receive this funding. They've historically received this funding. And the allocation amount was set by the LCC, the local coordinating committee on which Marion Birch sits.
Any questions before? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adopt resolution 06-2026.
So support.
Whoever you like. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of adopting resolution 06-2026, the Marion Birch Adult Day Center subcontract, say aye.
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 And motion adopted. Moving on to a similar, this is 07-2026, Community Action Agency subcontract, Mallory?
Yes, same source of funding, same pot of funding. In total, there's about $134,000 that we allocate between those 3 agencies and ourselves. And so this would be the subcontract for Community Action. Community Action, as you know, provides services for seniors and people with disabilities. They also utilize senior millage funding to provide transportation to seniors. This is just a small supplement to that funding. And this would execute that agreement.
Any questions on resolution 07-2026? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
So
Do I have a second?
Okay.
Any other questions or? No. All in favor of adopting resolution 07-2026, the Community Action Agency subcontract, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have, that is approved. Resolution 08-2026 is the approval of the Community Inclusive Recreation subcontract.
Yes, again, same pot of funding, Community Inclusive Recreation is our neighbor, actually. So, we have long partnered with CIR and they provide transportation primarily to individuals with disabilities and largely for their recreational activities or program purposes. And I will say CIR every year exceeds their allocation. If we got $200,000 from the state of Michigan, CIR would be able to spend all of it in the number of rides that they provide. So This would be the same thing. This would allow us to execute that subcontract with CIR.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
So moved. Support.
All in favor of adopting resolution 08-2026, community inclusive recreation subcontract, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Moving on, resolution 09-2026. It's the MDOT resolution of intent to apply for state and federal funding.
Yes. So I shared with you guys earlier that our team is like deep in the thick of it, this month particularly, wrapping up our financial audit from fiscal year 25, applying for grant funds for fiscal year 27, and then also some of the ongoing projects and things that need to happen, before our July 1st transition date. So, you know, this application is just one of those many things, and this is grant season. This application is for fiscal year 27, so that starts October 1 of 2026. We apply to MDOT every February for that continuation funding, and keep in mind that that is what is called our local bus operating assistance. So this application to MDOT doesn't only cover capital and specialized services, those things that we just talked about, but it also covers the local bus operating assistance that we get, and now the 5311 assistance that we get, which is federal pass-through to the state, which supports the service that we've expanded into rural areas. So one of the things that we talked about a lot leading up to the creation of the authority was the how becoming an authority and serving a larger population allows us to leverage additional funds. And this is an example of that. So where previously Marshall Dial-A-Ride might have only received maybe $70,000 in 5311 funding, we're looking at about $300,000 in 5311 funding. And it's a large difference based on expenses that we're able to demonstrate now as a larger organization. So this resolution of intent, that is about 200 pages of the 228 that your board agenda was. That is all of the supporting documentation for the grant application that gets submitted to MDOT. Once the board approves this resolution of intent to apply, those documents become available for public review. They are obviously already on our website, but they're available for physical inspection at our office at 339 West Michigan. So people will be able to, if they want to see it, go through the application. You can view it both online and come into the office to view it. It covers capital and operating, as well as the special programs that we have, like mobility management, New Freedom, which covers expenses for our late night services, and then our general operating assistance. The state does require that revenues be over expenses or it be a balanced budget. And in this case, we are revenue over expenses, again, as part of our net position policy, continuing to leverage in fiscal year 27 the full 2.66 mils in order to build that net position that we need in order to match the dollars that we know we have to pull down from the state and federal government. So as a reminder, all of our grants are reimbursement based. So we have to demonstrate the expense before we can be reimbursed for it, which is why we have to have those funds in the bank first in order to make payroll, purchase vehicles, and operate. So this resolution has a budget with estimated federal funds of $3,080,380,380. Estimated state funds of $3,429,284, local funds of $4,724,917, estimated fare box of $620,116, and other funds, which example of other funds would be advertising revenue, the sale or scrap of vehicles, small contracts that we may have for other services, and then total expenses, that's, I'm sorry, 152,000, and then other estimated expenses of $11,661,966. Upon execution of this resolution, that would give us the authority to submit that application to the state.
Just do February 6th.
Yes.
Some,
Support.
Motion and support for resolution 09-2026, the MDOT resolution of intent to apply for state and federal funding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Made it through all those. Now, this is a time on the agenda for public comments on non-agenda items. If there's anything that we didn't discuss that you would like to bring up, this would be the time. Just if you could identify both your name and jurisdiction or group you're representing. Seeing none, we're going to keep moving along here. Board and executive director comments, communications to the board.
There were none.
Okay. Yes.
In that time, can I read something that I prepared for that meeting? It's a paragraph, it's not super long, but it's in line with
Yes, you may.
the other things that have been discussed today. At our January 27, 2026 public hearing in Marshall, I shared my appreciation to and for Ride Calhoun staff for their efficiency, effectiveness, and competency for learning and implementing a new accounting software system in less than half of the time and money budgeted to do so. Thank you for also caring deeply about our residents, riders, drivers, staff, businesses, communities, county, and region. For doing the hard yet meaningful work to ensure they thrive as well as Ride Calhoun. Balancing federal and state requirements, people's and places needs, and Ride Calhoun's long-term fiscal responsibility and sustainability is challenging. We have the right people who are very dedicated, doing great work to make it happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to inform the board that the Marshall City Council last Monday night appointed me to the 2 neighborhood improvement authorities that are capturing some of our tax dollars through their TIFA. And so I have 2 more meetings now to go to. So we will move on. Legislative updates.
I don't have anything at this time.
Jeff, VCAT's update? Oh, Jeff tonight?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, consultant updates. I guess I didn't even know if Peter.
Peter's on. Yes, I'm
Okay.
not sure if he has any updates, but Peter.
Peter, anything you'd like to update us on?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say that Clark and I are up to date on issues with Wright Calhoun. We had a good meeting with Mallory. We kept up with what's going on. We are ready to collaborate with Mallory and with the board in communications with the Federal Transit Administration and MDOT. It's obvious from the grant applications that you have approved today that a significant amount of money is being requested from Federal Transit Administration and Michigan Department of Transportation to make up the additional dollars that you have created locally, partially through Wright Calhoun. It's obvious to us that you have requested in your approval 9.9 million in state funding, 28.3 million in federal funding, and 2.2 million in local funding for a total funding package of 40 million. And this is a big ask, and we want to make sure that Clark and I stand ready to help you, especially with matters that deal with Federal Transit Administration and MDOT. We both have good relationships with those agencies, and as you go through the process this year, there'll be a triennial review. There'll be other issues where we're meeting with the feds in terms of the funding issues and being able to leverage the grants that you're proposing in your amendment. So that we feel is the most important aspect of what Clark and I, can provide for you, the board, and Mallory. In addition to that, I think that as you're moving into finalizing your year of transition, we stand ready to help you as board members to do board work and being able to guide you in that process. That is what we bid on when we bid on this transition work. We stand committed to it, and we'll stay with you until it's done. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Peter? Clark?
I don't have a question, but I want to say thank you for your support and all of your help through everything that we've been working on and will continue to work on. We are grateful.
We are
Yes.
grateful for this opportunity to work with what we think is a very meaningful and exercise and transition to a larger community, better options for the folks. And when I was first approached on this, I said, "Thank you. I will be glad to bid on it." And when I was really happy to see Clark partner because he brings these kind of other aspects of his knowledge and background to what I have. So we're very different in background and in experience, and we will stay with you until it's done. And then we will party with you when it's over.
The deal. All right. Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome.
Okay, just some future, we'll be scheduling a public hearing for the Albion area and the fairs to be determined, and we will need to have a forum when that happens sometime in the next 30 days. Our next board meeting will be here in this room on March 11th at 5:30, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
We are adjourned. I don't know if I needed a motion to adjourn or not.
We don't.
And thank you all for coming, night staff and the public. So thank you very much. We have good roads.